Welcome back to Tutorial Tidbits and welcome to my channel. I'm Elizabeth St. Hilaire and today I have a video for you to show you what it is I do with all that gel printed paper. I'm always showing you gel printing techniques and layering and how to create rich, luxurious collage papers. But do you really know what I do with my collage papers? If you've got a few minutes, let's go check it out. Okay, so welcome back to the studio. Today I'm working to finish this chickadee collage that I started in Sedona at the Art Center in the Mixed Media Airmail Art Workshop. I am going to be demonstrating how I use my gel prints for collage because even though most of the videos that I share on YouTube are the gel printing process, sometimes people ask me, what do you do with all these gel prints? Well, what I do with all my gel prints is collage. So in this particular project, the background is airmail ephemera that has been glued down to a rigid substrate. This is Frederick's cradled canvas panel. So this is a hard panel, and originally the surface of it was canvas. And this is a product by Frederick's, which I love because you don't have to frame this. You wrap the art around the edges, you add a hanging wire in the back, and you're done. So it has a nice contemporary look without framing. How did I get here? Well, the ephemera background was built, like I said, in the Sedona workshop, but the ephemera background lesson is available in my Patreon. In my Patreon, I have about 37 different videos just covering backgrounds. Then I transferred the chickadee drawing from a photograph on top of the background, and that sketch transfer is another lesson that is available in depth with multiple subjects in my Patreon. And then I underpainted, I did what I call an underpainting, and I create a painting under every single one of my collage subjects because this acts as my roadmap and my guide to what color, what level of darkness paper to apply to this chickadee. So I've already worked out all the shading with this painting, and now I'm just going to glue the collage paper on top, following what I've established with my paint. So a good underpainting with accurate shading and just enough detail to serve as a map for collage is another lesson that is from my Patreon, covered in depth with many, many videos on many different subjects: florals, landscapes, birds, abstract, you name it. So how I got to this point can all be learned through my Patreon, or come and take an in-person workshop with me. But today I'm going to demonstrate how I use these gel prints in the collage process. So all the supplies that I'm using, as usual, will be listed in the information box below the video. But my brushes are the Princeton Catalyst short handle filbert number 8. This is a rigid bristle brush. It applies a lot of pressure to the pieces of paper to get them to glue down flat. I like the short handle because I leave it in my hands. I don't take it out of my hands, so this is nice, compact. I like the filbert for the rounded corners. It tends to wipe off the excess collage glue most completely. And I like the number 8. That is the size across. Rather than have to stop what I'm doing to go and wash out a brush, I'm going to set myself up with several of these favorite brushes off to the side. And as they get junked up, I'll throw them in the water. That allows me to keep on working. And then when I'm finished with this little guy, I'll go and wash all the brushes at once. I find this helps my productivity immensely to have several of these brushes. Links for the brushes and the glue that I prefer, again, are down in the information box below. Okay, let's get started. So when I say I use this as a roadmap, a guide to my collage application process, I mean that now I am going to hold my papers up to this and say, well, look at that. That's got black and white on it. So that would allow me to have a nice soft transitional edge between the black and the white. So this could go around the edges. And I've got other papers that I'll hold up and say, would this work as my black? Well, I'm not sure. It's pretty black, but maybe all those light brown lines in it are too much. So I'm auditioning my papers. I'm holding them up and saying, okay, this is a gray, but it's a lot cooler than what I painted in here, sort of except for in this area where it's got some pink on it. This is more of a brownish gray, and a bluish gray is not going to work in there. So I had taken out a paper like this, thinking that it would work as a gray, and it is a lovely Italian marbled paper, but it's more of a bluish gray than what I painted, except for maybe in some of the bubbles that are a little bit more towards brownish. So as I audition, I can determine what papers that I pulled out are actually going to work and what are not. And all of these papers that you see that I'm holding up here have been created with my gel plate. So these are all, this is deli paper, which is translucent. This is some kind of decorative paper. This is an old book page. But all of this is created with my gel plate. And I'm focusing on Patreon today because I want to encourage you. It's the very beginning of the month, and that's the best time to join Patreon. So since we're in the first week of the month right now, the first week of May, this is the time to sign up for Patreon. When I collage a subject, I work from the back to the front. So in this subject, the branches, the tree branches, are behind his feet. His feet are underneath his belly. His belly is over the tail. This part of the tail is over that little part of the tail. His little winged areas are sort of on top of the belly, and then the head and neck come over the breast, and the breast is over the belly. So I'm going to work from the back to the front typically in any subject. And within the subject, I use Liquitex Gloss Gel Medium. I use gel because it doesn't drip and it has less water and more glue. It's concentrated, and water is what makes paper wrinkle or buckle. And really behind all of this, after the legs, is this tail and this little bit here. So let's find a little piece of dark. This would work for that. So now I just have to tear it sort of to match what I painted, and that's a little big, so I'll put that right there and press the glue on top, applying pressure with this brush, spreading and applying pressure. On this one, I painted a little bit of the golden color that's over here. This is the right value and the right color. So, and I love that for it. And since I found that, I love that. I'm going to put that here since I have it out. So I'm going to get a little bit more glue and put that here. In a couple spots there, and he's gray on this side because, like I said, the light is coming from there. So on this side it's going to be gray, softer gray. I very rarely use these, but I did pull out this, but I think that's kind of too graphic of a pattern for my purposes. I really do like a more organic pattern. So here I'll use some of this paper right here on top, but that's darker than what I painted, isn't it? It's really more of a right here paper. It's perfect right there, but I need something a little lighter right here. So my marginal piece is a little warm for that side. I think it's more going to go over here. It's got more of a yellow tone. This is a little cooler. So it's not as blue as that. Here's where you think you've got all your perfect collage papers and you don't. Here's some great old typing book pages that I painted that have some cool grays. This could be good. So I'm gonna grab that and see. I do like that there. That's perfect. So now as it comes up to the top, it'll be a little lighter. So does this work? Yes. That's the right value. If you can't get the perfect color, the value is more important. And what I mean by value is how light is it? How dark is it? Now, I do have some really fun wispy white paper. I have to tell you that I get this at art supply stores in the back drawers, locally or when I travel. I am not sure what it's called, but it's all made up out of fibers, and it's beautiful for making this little bird's wing just wisp out and look fluffy. So I'm gonna take a bit of it here and put it right there to give him a little fluff. And I need to probably lay it over twice because when it gets thin, it disappears a bit, and we don't want it to disappear into the background. So there we go. It's just fun. It's more fluffy than he really is, but it's just fun and whimsical, and there we go. And adds a little something. So that's my artistic license on that, is giving him a bit more fluff. And you can sort of push these with your thumb, and I'm going to curve it up a little bit. There. So he has a flip. It would be good on a baby bird, especially. So now I've got white down underneath here. I've got some reflected white. So again, I'm wiping off the front of my brush onto the board, and I'm wiping up any excess blobs of glue as I go along. I don't want to leave a blob of glue on here because it will dry hard as a rock and you won't be able to get it off. So a lot of the times for white, I like to use handwriting. So here's a little bit of handwriting on some white paper that would work nicely under there, giving me a little texture in the white and not pure flat white. Try to do as I say, not as I do. Try to use only the brush for all manipulating glue and paper, keeping your fingers clean, because in order to tear, you can't have glue all over your fingers. So this is the only tool that I generally use to get everything down flat, and I try to keep my fingers clean. So we want to use small pieces in here because he's a small bird and we're creating the feeling of feathers. So I'm going to wipe this off again. We're creating the feeling of feathers. So we want small little pieces, just like I made small little vertical brush marks that kind of went out like this. That's what I need to do for the pieces that I'm tearing now, following my brush marks. So let's see. Here I've got a little bit of this kind of interesting greenish brown with white on it. It's a little dark, but I do like the variation in it. So could it work in this dark side? It could work right there. Let's see if I got enough glue. And I could grab a little more of it to sort of soften that and put it here. And a little piece here. So that gives me a little bit of an area with light and dark and some of these warm brown tones. So that's enough of the same paper. Now I have to switch to something else. So this is a little light. It's good over here though. And since I've established the tail, I can come over here. had thought about using this to see if I could make a fuzzy edge of the white into the black. So this would sort of be at the top here to give a fuzzy feeling. And it's about the feeling and the impression. We're not trying to make a photorealistic chickadee. I'm just giving you the impression of the bird and the fuzziness. That looks great. I love that in there. So the idea is to be loose and impressionistic, and to add in some colors that maybe aren't really there, like the green and orange speckles. My photo of this bird is here, and he's got some paint on him and kind of a messy, but you can see that when I look at that, I probably could bring the white of the breast down to a little bit more of a point. I'll set that off to the side so I could come a little bit further down with some of the white. So I'm going to grab this white with brown on it and put it right here. And you're going to see that when I brush that, it's a thin rice paper. So the translucency of it is lightening up what's down, but it's not blocking it out. So they're now working together. And I'll bring that down a little bit so we have a little bit more in the breast area of the white. So I've increased that a little bit more. Okay, so now in the black, I've used that fuzzy edge paper, and I don't want to keep using the same paper over and over. So I'm going to come in here. I've got some, this would look great on the edge next to the wing. So I could put that sort of in here. It would help me transition. It is white and black together. It would also be probably good at the edge of his head here, because it'll give a soft edge between the black and the white. And maybe even some in here. It just is going to give a soft blend. It's a transition, and it's going to give a soft blend. Now I need it to be dark up underneath the chin, so I need to grab something that's pretty dark without white. So this has got too much white and too much going on. This is pretty dark. So I'm going to put that up in here. I need a bit of a smaller piece. So that's going to go right up there. And now I have to soften this and figure out how to make this organically blend into what else I have down there. So I have to get rid of the white edges. And again, I'm going to wipe. And this is pretty glumpy now, so that's going in the water. And I'm going to come out with a new brush so I can keep working. So let's see. Part of that bluish gray could work if I could get it right in here for the top of the head area. If I could grab it right in here where it's the darkest without the white, right there, it could be nice up here on the top of the forehead. Because the light is coming from the left-hand side, so if that black on the top of the forehead is a little lighter, that would be consistent. And now I have to switch to something different, so I could come in here and use this dark that I used underneath. This is a bluish, I think this is a Payne's gray, so I'm going to put that on his head. And here I've got a nice meandering organic line to create a little fluffiness on the top of his head. And again, my black painting is working with me. If I miss any spots, my painting is working with me. Okay, and I'm going to add a little bit more of that down in the bottom here. I'm tearing it to eliminate white edges because we don't want white edges in our dark pieces. And I'm going to let it sort of softly blend into what I put down already. Okay, now, so for the finishing touch, we have to do an eye. And when I do an eye, I want to incorporate a little white edge around the eye. So I'm going to put a little glue down. I'm going to look closely at the size of that. I'm going to use a paper that's dark that has white on the back. I'm going to put my thumbs really close together, and I'm going to tear. So there we go. It's a little uneven, but I think it's about the right size. So let's see if we can make that work. Yep, we can make that work because that little uneven bit could act as the highlight, which is on the top right-hand corner. And here we've got a tear on the top right-hand corner. So I'll angle that up to be the highlight. And then I'm going to take the tip of this paper where it comes to a point, and I'm just going to grab that tip and pluck it off to create my highlight. So I've just pulled off that tip of white. So thank you very much for being here. This is what I do with all those gel prints. Thank you for being here this week. I appreciate any comments you would like to leave below because I reply to all comments. Also, subscribe to my channel. It's a great wealth of information on gel printing and collage, and that helps my videos reach a wider audience. And from the bottom of my art heart, once again, shout out to my patrons, all of my patrons whose support in the month-to-month Patreon community is what allows me to make these videos for free. So if you want more information about the products used in this video or about Patreon, all of those links are going to be below in the description box. Thanks a bunch, and I'll see you right here next week.